I'm Wasim, and in today's video, we are going to be sculpting an old man bust inside Z.
So we'll start the sculpt using the base mesh that you can find in the zip file. I like using base meshes, just makes the sculpt go faster, but at the same time, it just helps you visualize the main areas of a head or a body, and just make it easier to move stuff around and tweak them to the character that you're going to be creating. Now I'm starting with the forehead. My character's forehead is really shows his age and how tired it is. For this character, I was going for an old man who's went through a lot, or just tired, or just going through some painful emotions. And I wanted to see if I can do that, create a character and just that shows emotion with his eyes closed. And you'll notice with the base mesh, I decided to have the upper lids and the bottom lids separate, just to make it easier to move stuff around. And you notice that I'm using the move brush just to, just to move stuff around, scale them, just rotate them, just to get them in the spot that I want. The other thing you'll notice that with the nose, I decided to have the bridge of the nose and the tip separate from the nostrils. If you've used base meshes before, you'll see most of them have the nose as one piece. What I don't like about that is the moment you start tweaking the nose, maybe having the tip a bit bigger or pointier, that will affect the shape of the nostril as well. So then you're kind of struggling of keeping a balance between the nostrils not being affected. This way you can make the nostrils, keep them give them their shape, and have the nose separate. And once you're happy with the shape, you can merge them down, and you'll see when we're gonna get to that part. So for the most part of the sculpt, the most important part I think is just blocking the shapes out. So don't be afraid of exaggerating and moving stuff around, and just because the fact that you have everything separate just makes it way easier to try different shapes and so on. Now for the lips, I did the same thing. So the upper lip and the bottom lip are separate pieces. And again, just to have that much control, if your character has a fatter lip on the top or a thinner lip on the bottom or so on, you do have that effect. For this guy has like a small chin, like how old people, because they lose their teeth, you kind of lose a bit of that jaw bite. So the jaw bite is a bit smaller. And here I'm just going in with the clay brush and just adding a bit more meat around the cheeks, under the jaw, and just moving stuff around and seeing what fits and what looks good for the character. Now for this character, I don't have a particular drawing. I just have a couple of photos of old people that I gathered around, and I'm just trying some stuff. So I'm kind of freestyling this. I know that the character was going to have a beard, and you might be asking, why am I going into the trouble of moving stuff around if the whole face is going to be covered with the beard you've seen in the render. The thing is, you have to think of your character as a living being. So maybe you want to shave his beard, and anatomically speaking, you can't get those shapes if you don't have that beard, and then the volume of it, the face and the volume of it correct, because then the moment you start adding a beard on top, it's just going to look a bit weird. Now you'll notice that I'm keeping stuff really rough, so I'm not worried about how clean it is. You'll see me jumping from doing the jaw, then jumping to the forehead. For the forehead, I went ahead and just added 2 rough lines, a bit of age lines on the top, just so. And the moment you start, here's the thing: when you start adding wrinkles in the forehead or the face, always keep in mind to add volume as well, not just go with the damn standard and just make a line. Because if you look at a face, the moment if you have a a wrinkle, then around it there is meat that has weight to them. So it's really important. Now here I'm going. You're going to notice why it's really important to have, for me at least, to have the lips split into the two parts, the bottom lip and the top lip, because I can move it, I can try stuff, and the fact that it's separate, me moving the bottom lip, it doesn't affect top lip doesn't affect the bottom lip, and vice versa, and it just gives me that option of trying stuff and seeing what works. The other good thing about having them separate is the moment you start moving the upper lip, it doesn't affect the face and the mustache area, the meat underneath the nose, and the bottom lip, again, you can move it, make it thicker, and not worry about that's going to affect my jawline and so on, right? So it's all about giving you that control over each part. Now with the damp standard here, I'm just going in and just adding a bit of rough wrinkles, again keeping it rough. I'm not worried about anything clean. I'm just want to see if the overall look of the face is good. Now, duplicating the bottom part of the face, I'm going to isolate it and just going to go ahead and smooth it. So I'm going to be using the same part. You can go ahead and add a new sphere if you want to, but what I like doing that because it keeps the same shape of that face. What I have to do now is just go with the move tool and just have the parts that I don't want to be seen, just sink them into the face, and have the parts that I want them to stick out, just move them out, and just you can see it as if the beard is growing. And this way you can establish like where and how big and the volume of the shape of it, and it's going to follow the face, the shape of the face, because if you think about it, the beard grows on top of the face, so it has to follow the same shapes of the face. Now with the clay brush, I love doing this because you can go in and just add volume, and it just makes it look so natural. Again, don't worry about making it looking clean. Just draw lines, as if the hair is growing, and then with the damp standard, you can just go in and add deeper creases, and then if you press Alt, you can get those creases reversed, and then it's just going to add like nice edges for the hair. Now for the mustache, I'm going to be using curved tubes. Now make sure to select the piece that you want the curved tubes to appear on, and if the curved tubes go through the face, just make sure to go to picker, and you have depth, and just make sure you have continuous Z selected. So then it will the curve is going to appear on top of that part. Now we'll go ahead and split that part, and then with the inflate tool, I'm just going to inflate that shape what I want it to be a bit thicker. You'll notice that I'm working only on the half of the face. Sometimes I'll mirror it before I start making the edits, but sometimes it's just, I don't know, it just works to focus on one piece. And once I'm happy with that shape, I'll just go ahead and duplicate it or mirror it just to get the overall look. Now, the same as the beard, I'm just gonna go with the clay brush, just go over it like really rough, and try to think of how that hair would move on the face, just to make it so it don't make everything vertical, going down or in one direction. Just and don't be scared to overlay it on top, just because what I love about clay brush, if depending on how hard you press on it, you can get like really soft lines, and it's just going to add that much texture. And again, with the damp standard, just go in and just add a couple of lines, and with the Alt, you can just do have a reverse and have those lines go poke out instead of just digging in. So now I'm jumping in between the beard and the mustache, and now that I'm happy with the overall shape, I'll just go ahead and mirror it, and now I can move on and work on the hair. Now with the hair, I'll do the same thing. So I'm duplicating the head part, smoothing it, and then I'm just gonna move the parts inside. And if you have to think about when you're sculpting hair, think about the overall shape of the hair. Don't worry about hair strands. Don't worry about details of the hair and so on. Just think of it as if you were squinting at a photo, and you'll see the blob, which is the hair, and just move stuff around until you get the big shapes in, right? And once you have the big shapes in, just go in with the dam standard, as I shown you with the beard, the same process. Again, you'll notice that I'm not even worried about having stuff poking out at the back or overlaying or anything. What you have to be worried about when you're working, especially at this stage, is just getting that volume in, and worry about is this looking, the overall look, is it good? And then we'll worry about making it clean or making it look good and so on. And you notice I'm even using symmetrical. Now here's the trick about with hair. You can do the sides symmetrical, because nobody's going to be looking at the same two sides at the same time, but for the middle, just hit click off symmetry and just add extra lines. It's just going to make it look more natural. And with the dam standard, what I'm going now is I'm going in and without symmetry, I'm just going to adding a couple of, sharp lines just to give it that, that hair look. Now that I'm happy with the overall volume, I'll just go in with the curved tube, and you'll notice that I'm not even worried about, I'm not using any, fancy hair, brushes. I'll share a couple with you that I think that I really love using in ZBrush. But for this stage and for blocking, curved tubes does a great job of doing that. Now, again, if the curved tube is going through that, now that you have the picker set, it shouldn't. But if you close ZBrush and open it again and still going through, just make sure to have depth set to Z. Go to picker, depth, and have continue Z selected. Now, once you have that initial shape of the curve, just move it around with the move tool. And then here, what I'm going to Z modeler, and I'll go and delete a couple of the edges that, I don't need, because I want some parts of that strand to be sharp and the other parts I want it to be soft. So when I go ahead and, add like a dynamic subdivision to it and make them smoother, it will give me that, strand look. And you need that, as sharp edges, soft, so you can get a bit of more dynamic shapes between them. So now that I have one shape, looking okay, I go ahead and duplicate it and just move it around. This is a fast way of creating hair. Just seeing if it how it looks, if it works. You need to add if you like the hairstyle, and without worrying about brushes or is it looking perfect and so on, and just duplicate one of the strands and just move them around and try to have those shapes as different as possible, like make them fatter, wider, smaller, and then you can make. And then once you think, I don't know, I think this piece is starting to repeat itself, just go in and just create a new curved tube, and inside Z modeler, again, what I'm doing here, I'm deleting the lines that I don't need. And you'll notice I'm not worried about the shape breaking or anything. I just want to figure out the shape of my character and just block that in as fast as I can. And without because the thing is, when you start putting too many hours and too much time into one detail, and you either get bored with the project, or if you're working with a client and they ask for changes, you're not going to be happy with doing changes when you spent like 4 or 5 hours into it. But if you block stuff really fast and you just show it to a client and say, okay, this is the haircut that I'm going for. What do you think? Do you like the volume? And explain that this is just, rough, and we'll kind of clean it and so on. So you'll notice here, it's again the same thing. Is I'm using curved tubes, adding the main shape. So I'll draw the main shape just like, I don't know, rough, like really rough, like 60% there, right? And just then I'll split that part as its own subtool, and then using Z modeler just to remove a couple of the edges that I don't want, and just to have that, nice sharp shape. Here I'm just mirroring the, the side one that I did. And again, you'll notice that once I duplicate that, I'll go in and just tweak it a bit so it doesn't look exactly like that one. Now, as I said, they do look rough now, but the moment you start dynameshing them, or when you start adding, more subdivision or dynamic subdivision, you'll see how nice those strands really look. So again, I'm duplicating the same strand that I did, rotating it, moving it around. I may use inflate just to give it more volume, or I may use pinch just to give it more, if you want the ends to be a bit more thinner, just use pinch and that should work just fine. Again, here, selecting the same one, I'll just go ahead and mirror the subtool. And again, doing the same thing. You'll notice that I'm using the same tools and keeping things really, really rough and really simple. Just moving stuff around, duplicating them, creating, and always remember to step back and look at the overall shape. Like look if the volume looks good. And what I love with the latest updates of ZBrush, you have that small thumbnail of a silhouette in the left corner, which is really helpful to help you see the silhouette of your character and see if that looks good, and if anything sticks out, or maybe something that you haven't noticed, because we spend so many hours working on a piece, you stop seeing the errors. And this is why you'll hear, like, a lot of artists say, when you're working on something, just take a break, go do something else or come back. Or another trick that I really love is just, take the same photos that I did and flip it and do a mirror, because it's kind of does like a refresh for your brain. And it's like, okay, look at this with this angle. Now, I'm jumping into Z modeler, and under edges, select an edge and make sure you select crease. And that what it does. And also make sure you have edge loop selected. So if you go space on an edge and then crease, and you have single edge loop or multiple edge loops, you just need a single edge loop. So that adds like a crease line on the edge that you want. And you'll see when you start doing the dynamic subdivision, you see how smooth that looks, but it keeps that nice edge. And this is why I kept those edges when creating the curve tubes, just because I knew that I want the top part to be, soft and smooth, but I wanted the side to have like a nice sharpness to it with a nice edge. And this is why I left two edges on the sides and not just one, because you have also to think about, okay, how it's going to affect when light hits that part. And you'll see that this is why some parts are rotated and just go in. It gives it a nice look, especially when you're doing hair. And we're doing polygon hair, which is simple without worrying about, doing like strands or realistic hair. So now just I'm going around the head and selecting each strand and, adding those creases to the edges that I left in. Now you would ask why I haven't added the creases before. Like, I need to keep my workflow as simple as possible and as clean as possible, because while working, you might move stuff around or skew an edge, or it doesn't look or it doesn't land where you want it to. So I don't have to worry about, okay, does that crease is going to be affected or it's going to look good. So I'll do the main shapes first, and then I'll go in with the crease edges and just add the creases whatever I need them. But you can do that. You can add the creases before or while posing it if that's easier for you. So again, here is just going in and moving stuff around, just tweaking them just to see if everything looks good. And you'll see that we're gonna go back to these and in a bit. Now, I'm using the same techniques that I used before, so curved tubes, and I'm just going to lay these over the forehead. Now, when I did the first shape, I didn't like how thick it was ending, the ends of the curve. So to tweak that, just go under stroke. And when you open that up, you have curve modifiers. And under intensity, you can select how the size. Just make sure you have, size selected, and you can select how thick, how much it tapers down to the end or the start. So you can taper it either way, right? So again, rough shape. Once I'm happy with that, I'll split it into its own subtool, and then I'm going to go in with the move tool, just move stuff around. Once I'm happy with the shape, again, damp standard, cut that part, go in with the clay brush, add, just small, lines, just to give it that volume. So now I'm just going in, selecting the parts that don't have any dynamic subdivision, because I want to see the overall look of the entire sculpt, because you notice like I've left a lot of stuff still without any subdivision. And now you will notice what's the benefit of having each piece separate, because you can go in and you can tweak the volume of each and every individual part. If you would like to make the neck thicker, just to make it proportional to the body, it's not going to affect the head until you and when you decide to merge it, you'll merge it just to. So I'm just going in. Now, one thing I highly recommend is have some, anatomical, reference. If you can have a structure of an anatomy, male, female, on your desk, that's even better. I can share a couple of things that I have, and I'll show you, and you can get some that are really, really cheap. So again, what I'm doing here is just going in, selecting the ears because the hair was sticking out of them, just moving them out, making small tweaks to the strands, then jumping back to the neck. Now for the neck, I wanted to add a bit of muscle. This is why I said just keep some anatomical reference next to you, just so you can add a bit of, neck muscles, Adam's apple, just to make it look. You don't have to go into detail, even if these are, rough and subtle. The fact that you went in and just gave them a bit of volume, just make them look that more realistic and that more relatable, even if you're doing something cartoony as this character is. So, and I'll go back to the selecting parts. Even with the beard and the mustache, I kept them as separate pieces because I wanted to have that control of moving. Maybe I want the beard to be larger or have more volume, and I wanted it to be more slaggy and have it go on, over the neck more. Maybe have those, those bike handles, go into the hair or whatever your tweak is. And here you'll notice that I'm using transparent. So you can select a part, have transparency on, and you can see how that part is looking underneath. And if something is sticking out, and I noticed that the beard wasn't covering all that, the underside of the jawline, and it just gives you that control of tweaking stuff and not affecting it. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind the fact that they're separate. You might end up with gaps, or you might end up with something not continually looking, correct because they're separate. So you always have to keep that in mind, to go back and check. Okay, I moved that ear. Did like the meat connecting to it or the muscle connecting to it? Did that move as well? Does it look good? And you can solo each part on its own and add any deep wrinkles or more volume. Like here with the inflate brush, I'm just going in and giving him a bit of more of a puffy cheek to them. And finally, what I'm doing is I'm showing the character from all sides. You can do that with Shift S, so you can see the character from different parts. Now, in this part, we're going to start cleaning. And by cleaning, we're going to go ahead and select each part and merge stuff and clean them. And you'll notice that I'm starting to hide stuff, and I'm going to keep only the stuff that. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually focusing on each individual piece and how that piece is going to connect to the other subtool. And usually I'll start with the bottom part of the face, with the lips, because these usually are the trickiest to get right. So I'll start by jumping between the upper lip and the bottom lip here, just to get that proportions and volume. Okay, with lips, it's a bit tricky, and I make sure you have a lot of reference of, because it really depends from a person to person, female, male, old, young. It's a lot of differences between the two, but all in all, when you're making something organic, just remember that even organic parts, and especially like lips or like any body part, you'll have really harsh edges, like edges that creases, wrinkles, or like the edge where some some part ends and starts another one. So with this one, you'll see I'm softening the bottom lip, but then I made sure the bottom, especially in the middle, because then it tapers off on the sides. Made that sure it's sharp. Now, so I selected the face, added some dynamic subdivision because I wanted to see the softness, and then I start by merging. So here you notice that I only merged the top lip with the face, and then I'm softening it with holding shift, and you just soften. And then I go in and I'll add that sharp edge just so it holds the shape of the lips. And you'll notice that I don't go to the end of it. It's because if you look at reference photos, you'll notice that it's sharp. The edge is sharp in the middle, but then it tapers off to the sides. And then have the edges, in the underneath the nose. I don't know what that part is called. So then it's just a matter of softening. I'm using the flattened brush as well, just so I need that area to feel like it's and with a bit of inflate. I just want that area to feel like it has a bit more meat underneath it. Then I'll go in and I'll make the the wrinkles around the that start under the nose. So because initially when I sculpted, I forgot to add the line, because usually these start at the end of the nostril and then they go down the face. So I made sure those are a bit deeper, and I'm still going to tweak those once we start merging the nose, because then we have a big gap between the nose and the face. So now I'm going to go ahead and soften dynamic, add some dynamics to the nose, and then add subdivisions, and then I'm going to merge the nose with the nostrils. And before merging, just make sure the shapes are almost there. They don't have to be 100% there, but just make sure they're almost there, because then it's a bit difficult to start moving stuff around. So then merge them, Dynamesh, and then I start softening. But as you notice, I don't go... I don't soften it perfectly, because at the nose, the more closer to the face it is, those lines become harsher and stronger, right? And also in the front of the nose, so just to get that, especially if you have like a big round nose, then you'll see that those lines actually make the shape of that nose, and then. Again, just jumping around from one part to the other, just making sure it's everything just flows. Next, I'm going to go ahead and merge the forehead part with the bottom. So one thing I love about when you're working in separate pieces, I love when you dynamesh two pieces and it creates like natural creases between the two. Like you'll see the line between the forehead, the top part of the head and the bottom, that created like a nice a nice wrinkle that I want to keep there. And it has like a nice volume to it, because it's between two parts, and it has like a nice, it's sharp, but at the same time just goes and soften. So here with the damp standard, I'm just going in and just making those lines a bit sharper. And as I said, whenever you add a sharp line, just go in with the inflate brush, just so it adds a bit of meat. Because if you think of those wrinkles, they dig into the skin, but at the same time, everything around it still has its weight, and still it becomes even more stronger. So as you see, when I start merging stuff, some parts pop, and you start tweaking and adjusting to the merge, because the moment you start merging stuff, some shapes you need to fill in some space, or you need to remove some volume. Again, here you'll see the same thing. So I'm adding a damn standard line just to make those wrinkles stronger, especially the ones on the forehead. And again, once I do that, I'll go in with the inflate brush, especially the top line, because at the top you have to think of gravity. It has a weight to it, and it just falls down, right? And then at the ends, make sure you soften those, so you have like a crease that just softens out and just merges in. One thing you can do is you can also use the pinch brush, and if you think those lines are not strong enough, you just take the pinch brush and just pinch those creases and those wrinkles. This just gives you a nice. It gives you a volume, and it keeps that sharp cut. Next, what I'll do is I'll merge the nose, and because of the bridge here, what could I've done? I could have made the nose just just fade in, but I know that the moment that I start adding, what I love adding when I add with the clay brush, is it it makes it feels like it's actual meat. And here the smooth brush isn't strong enough, so I'll go into the and just choose the stronger smooth. Just makes it easier to smooth those creases. I'll add a bit of, highlight the creases that I want to see here under the nose, because that goes into that line. Just make sure they're connected and a bit stronger. And whenever you do that, just make sure you always go back with the inflate or the pinch. Just make sure it's not only a line, because it's not a cut. Even when you do a scar, if you notice when you do scars or stuff like that, you still, because that tissue, when it healed, it added like another tissue and so on. So you still have that small bumps, and it just makes it more, it just adds a bit more meat to it. Now, the thing that I do is, when you work on a piece and you feel that it's not there, just leave it, and just jump on another piece, because you'll get frustrated with, like, you start moving stuff around and you go like, I'm not getting the shape, and you just frustrate yourself. If that happens, just jump to another piece. Just go work with the forehead, work with the eyes, tweak the nose, whatever, and just come back to it, because what it happens is you've been staring at it for so long, you don't know what works anymore. So here you'll notice now I'm merging the bottom part of the lip, and as I said, with lips, it's a bit weird, because if you don't get the proportions right, they start looking a bit off. Like you see, still here, I'm not happy with the shapes, because like every tweak you make just makes or breaks the character. Now, you might ask, why am I doing this? Because the guy has a huge beard. But again, it's an exercise for you. That's one thing. Two, if the client decides to not give the character a beard, then you have to sculpt that beard. So, or you decide for your character. You're at one point you go like, oh man, I wish I want to do this guy without a beard, because I think he looks cool. And again, if you treat your character as like a living character, that then you'll design him differently. Like, you'll think of all these aspects. So after I've merged and softened, I'll go back with the hard brushes, because when when you start smoothing stuff, you might end up smoothing those edges that you need to be sharp. So you have to keep in mind everything has a contrast. Like, if you look, everything in our body, from our fingers, face, eyes, everything has a contrast of softer pieces, but there are like a lot of like sharp pieces. Now, next is jumping into the ears. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'll inflate a bit the parts that I want to be a bit bigger, add some dynamic subdivisions, and then I'll merge it with the face. Like with the ear, there's one trick that I learned. I don't remember what I learned. That one is, if you want to sculpt an ear, just use the tube brush, and just make a question mark, and then inside the question mark, just draw a Y figure, like a simple Y, and at the end of it, just put a small sphere, and then merge all the thing together, and it just comes out nice. It's not realistic, but for this one, I'm not going for realistic, but I'm going for something more stylized. But it just works. And so now, again, as I did before, once I'm happy with the shape, I'll merge it to the head, smooth in the part. Sometimes you need to add a bit of more meat, because if you look at, again, try to look as much reference as you can. You'll see that when you smooth it, you still have a gap. But when you add a bit of, if you need to add a bit of meat, just makes that line a curvature, just flow in a bit nicely. Now, as you see, jumping back to the eyes. Now, because I added a bit of more, meat between the nose and the cheeks, then now I have to tweak the eyes so the eyelids, the upper eyelid and the bottom eyelid just still have that line that starts from from the end of the nose to the end, and again, tweaking them slightly, moving some stuff around, adding some more subdivision, and then. Here, I'm also tweaking and adding, I thought, well, because this guy is an old guy, I'm going to go ahead and add just slightly, a bit of wrinkle on the eyelid, just to give him that, just age appropriate, feel to it. And you'll see, although I merged some stuff, I'm still jumping around between them and, tweaking, and I'll jump back. And again, whenever you get frustrated with the piece and it's not working or it's not coming as you want, just leave it as it is and work on another piece, and then come back. There's nothing wrong in coming back and just, tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until you're happy with the result. You'll notice that when I finish working on any piece, I'll start moving the head around or zoom out and, look at it overall. Because especially when you've been working like on small pieces, you kind of tend to get lost in the details. And it's a good measure to, like, each time you work on anything or tweak it or do, add it, just take a step back, just zoom out, look at the overall. And my eyes is always looking at that silhouette, just to see if because that small size just tells me if something jumps up in, like, the flow of the shape, or is the proportion of the shoulders, working with the neck, is the neck too long, and so on. So you're kind of jumping and tweaking between the two. And here, again, I'm going back, adding a bit of more muscle definition. I'm still haven't decided is like how muscly I'm gonna make this guy. I know this guy is old, but again, he's like a strong dude. I don't know, like an old fisherman or something. So I try to imagine like a small story for my character in my head. I don't know, it just makes it fun when you're working on a character to have something in your mind. It's just like, I don't know, you're while working on it, you're trying to know who your character is, and I don't know, understand more about what makes them tick, where do they live, and so on. So now I decided, because I'm working on the neck, I was like, I need to worry about the beard, and then I'll know if the proportion is correct. So again, what I'm trying to say is, like, don't be afraid to, drop a piece that you're working, a piece from that model and just do something else. Because you might come back to it and it's like, oh yeah, now I understand the volume better, because I need to figure out how the beard is going to affect his look and so on. And you'll notice that because I merged some stuff and I add some meat and I moved some pieces around, it actually, just modified a bit the shape of the face, and the beard wasn't aligning. So you just have to go back, and because we kept all the shapes simple, they're easy to edit. Like, you can easily go back and edit them and add any detail and clean them. So now I'm doing a bit of Dynamesh with polish on, and I'm going in with the damp standard and adding more detail. Again, I'll do like a crease, and then I'll make hold Alt and just do the opposite of that, just to give it. And here you see I'm not working with symmetry anymore, because while in blocking stage, symmetry is amazing. It's great for, blocking out shapes really fast and, getting your volumes and so on. When you're starting to detail, take the time to work in asymmetrical. Like,
take the time to make things not look symmetrical whenever you can. Like even a small tweak, move the lip a bit up, or the eye, make it a bit crooked, or the nose, or whatever. Because if you look at any face, no face is, is symmetrical. So here, just going around, making some shapes. Sometimes I'll just let the mess of the shapes that I had before guide me on what I want to add, and where do I want to add that small detail and all that stuff. So it's that messy blocking that you did might actually help you make a flow for the hair of the character. And now I'll just go around, see if I can add or I need to move any stuff. Because the moment you move the camera, you might notice that, it needs a bit of more volume. Or here I notice like, oh, it's covering the lip a bit too much. Because the moment you reveal other parts, like the mustache here, I notice like, okay, wait, the bottom lip is not showing as it's supposed to, right? So maybe I need to, drop that part a bit down. So now the next step is to take the mustaches, dynamesh them again from that blocking that we did. So the same blocking that we did, I didn't do anything extra to it. So the same blocking, dynameshed it, and then I'll go in with the sides. As you can notice, the symmetrical now is on because I want to use for the sides, I can use symmetrical, and you'll notice like at the end of it, I'll turn off symmetry and just go back and just do a couple of like small ones. And so symmetry on the sides is good. So once you start going to the middle, turn symmetry off, because then you're like viewing the character from the front. You're gonna notice with the side is not noticeable that much, right? So then you're gonna notice that, oh, it's a bit too symmetrical. So then you can just going in with the damp standard, adding a bit of crease, and then just alternating in between up and down, just getting, and again, using the same flow of the blocking parts that we did. That rough shapes that we did actually can guide us to know, oh, I like how that one feels. I'm just going to add like a sharp line, or this is going to be my valley, and this is going to be my hill, and so on. So I'll keep tweaking the shapes to get the look that I'm going for, right? So once I'm happy, I'm just going to go in and do a dynamesh, but I'm going to do it with polish. With what I love with polish is it just adds a bit of softness and sharpness to the top parts, and it just blends it really nicely. And again, just tweaking it, so you have like a nice flow between the mustache and the beard, so it just doesn't feel like it's just like two parts on top of the other. Just makes it feel like, oh, the hair, of the mustache is just flowing over the beard, right? So although they're separate parts and you want them to feel like separate parts, you just have to feel like they're pieces of the same, beard. So now, see, now that I have the beard and the mustache settled, I'll jump back to the shoulders and the neck. So now I'm ready to merge the shoulders with the neck, and now I can decide, okay, is the size of the shoulders, how much muscle do I add? How much, details do I add to the... so now just merging the two, dynameshing them, and then smoothing out the shapes, the connection shapes. And then with the clay brush, I'll just go in and add those, muscle details. It doesn't have to be crazy details, but I noticed that if you start adding a bit of detail to the muscles and then soften them up, even if they're not visible, you can actually feel them. Like you can actually feel that there is work done underneath, because you feel the flow of the neck and the silhouette, and how the posture helps the character sell the character even more. As you can see, I'm keeping it really, really simple. And I'll say it again. Try to, keep at least photo reference of an anatomical body, or if you can have like I have two statues on my desk that I love having them on my desk, because I can just look at them and know if I need to tweak that a bit and just add some muscle here, or I need to make the neck a bit because the flow is not correct, and so on. So I'll go in, just add a bit of muscles on the shoulders and just make that flow. And I might come back after. So once I tweak the hair, I might feel, notice like, oh, wait a minute. Now that I have the hair is a bit too long, I notice that the back of the neck is not looking. So again, this is the shape that we took and duplicated the head. So now, remember we added those, rough lines with the clay brush. So now I'm going in and doing the same thing I did with the beard, going in with the dam standard and just going over and adding, sharp edges and a bit of creases and just going in using the same flow. I know I'm repeating myself again, but it's the same thing actually. It's like you notice like once you use a technique with one piece, it's just you reusing it again and just making that sure. What you're trying here? Try to keep the style consistent. So don't make him a bit too large than the beard. So try as much as you can to look at, oh, this is how I did it with the beard. I must just use the same flow with the hair, just so it feels like it's from the same style and so on. Don't try, I don't know, you block the beard in like a polygon and then I don't know, you go crazy detail with tiny hairs with the head. It's gonna look weird. I'm not saying don't do it. Try it, but it's still gonna look weird. Try to stay follow the same lines because you'll notice once you start doing it for each piece, you'll kind of create a workflow for yourself. You're like, oh yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add whatever the blocking had. I'm just gonna add a crease here. I'm gonna add a sharp edge here. I'm gonna soften that. Now I don't like how that looks. You'll notice that now, although I'm doing all of these, and you might say, well, they're covered with the top hair. This is like the bottom. I know, but at one point I need to merge the bottom part of the hair with the strands that I did, so it looks, and if we do this, it's going to help us have like a nice flow. So it's going to look way better when because if we have left this soft and we have the strands going into that softness, it would have looked so weird. It was going from sharp edges, strands going into the head, and then you'll have to sculpt hard edges. This way, you're kind of preparing for that merge. You're like preparing, because if you think of, as I said, you have to think of hair and hairstyles as volumes, as like shapes. Because when you're making your haircut, when you're arranging your hair, you see like you have the back of your head, the sides, and so on, and then you have like, I don't know, in front of the head you have like one curl which goes up or over the forehead or goes back or whatever the hairstyle you're going for, right? So you have to think, okay, so this is like my base body of the hair, and on top of it there is these strands that they need to flow, right? And this is why I work like this, because it adds a bit of, it just makes it full. See? So now I'll start taking those strands and tweaking them, and I'll move stuff around so I can get, I don't have anything like poking through. And you'll notice, because you see how those strands look weird now, right? So they just look like tentacles, to be honest, like they're sitting on top of the head, and you don't want that. Like, you can get away with it if you're just doing a render. You're not going to view the model from any side. But this model, you'll see, I want to upload it to Sketchfab so you can look at it from all sides. So because I went ahead and created the bottom lines, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those strands and make them follow the flow of that. I hope I'm making sense. So I'm just moving those and making them flow. And you see like how I'm trying to align the hard edge that will go into a soft edge, or I want a strand to go underneath a strand. Just makes it a bit more natural. And it's not as tedious as you think, because this is not fast forward. This is like real time. I haven't fast forwarded or anything. So you'll notice that it doesn't take as that much time. You're just tweaking, moving stuff around, right? And just trying to follow the lines that you had before. And again, you'll see me like now I'm jumping to the bottom part because I noticed that this part was a bit too flat. So I'm going to go in and just add an extra line, or see, just to have that contrast between smooth and a bit of, edges smooth and a bit of edges and so on. So, but you'll notice that some of the edges, I don't blend them. I keep them out because think of hair. Sometimes you'll have, I don't know, a strand just going up, and that strand it's not merging with the overall shape of your head or the overall shape of the, what's it called? Your hairstyle that you're going for, right? So again, when you decide to okay, I'll merge these. You don't have to do it for all of them. Again, contrast is really important here. So merge a couple, leave a couple out, right? Just makes it more interesting to look at, and especially with hair, because hair is messy. Like the beautiful thing about, like, you want to know how to make hair look natural. Don't spend too much time making it look perfect. Like, just block in the shapes as you've seen me do, and then just go over with like a couple of strands, move them around, and you should get a really good hairstyle. And now I'm just going in and tweaking each hair strand, and just making sure it flows nicely with the bottom sculpt that we did, and then just go over each one. I know it might look like a tedious process, but trust me, it's really, really important to get those shapes clean and nice and have a nice flow, so they merge nicely when we start. When we start merging them with the bottom part. So now what you see here, I'm taking that strand and I want that strand to go a bit down, but also I'm looking at the lines that I sculpted and how that's going to be, how that's going to flow with the overall shape, right? So it's just a matter of like moving strands around, and just making sure the harsh edges and the soft parts are looking. We have like a nice balance between them. And you notice, like, again, when I start working on something, when one part too much, I'll just switch to another view, so I can see if it looks good from that side. But again, I know the back of my head is like, oh, I've been working on this part way too long, and I need to switch it up, right? Because you'll just taking that, I don't know, 10 seconds or 15 seconds from it just shows, when you come back to it, you just come back to it with fresher eyes. So here, that strand, I want that strand to go to the bottom because I thought it would have looked like really cool, and it also has like a nice merger between the back part of the hair with that flow. And honestly, like, the only thing that I'm doing here is just going over each one of them and just making sure the flow of each hair strand is. And you'll notice, like, each one now, it still has its own poly group, and haven't dynameshed any of them, so these are still in dynamic subdivision. So we can always go back to the rough. These are the same rough ones that we did at the start. So I haven't created new ones or anything. So now, once I'm happy, now that I'm happy with the shape, now I can go ahead and dynamesh them. I can go in and, sharpen some edges. I can go in and soften some edges. So these are like the final tweaks that I do before I merge each strand to the hair. Now, coming from, a toy designer and, 3D printing, I always also have like I don't know, it's like I need to make sure my models are watertight, so I don't have any overlaps, and this thing can be easily taken to, okay, I can 3D print this. At the same time, I can also render this. So for me as a toy designer, that's really important. So when I'm working on something, I have that in the back of my head is, oh, I know how I need to split this, right? So I need to make this, I need to print this, and I need to make sure I don't have any parts underneath that's going to cause a problem with printing, and we have overlaps, or we have some gaps which are not prepared. But that's for another discussion. We can go over on how to prepare a model for like making sure it's perfect for 3D printing. So now going back to the strands. Now, I finished one strand, so that strand is done. I might go back before I merge it. So you'll see me, like, I'll jump to the one before, And if I notice like, oh, that's a bit too soft, or I need an extra edge there, or I need to make this a bit harsher, because when you start adding, as I said before, when you start adding new stuff or make new stuff appear, those parts need to react, or with those parts. So now I have 3 strands merged to the hair, and you see how nicely they flow. And I just need to go in now and just smooth some parts, even the front parts that it's connected to the forehead. I'll just go ahead and Dynamesh them, and then I'll smooth out the edges that. Now you'll notice that when you start merging stuff again, the parts underneath get affected, so you need to tweak those, and you start to move them as one piece. And here I'm deciding, okay, so this strand, is it going to be overlapping with that, or you want it underneath? Because you have to think, hair is not like you do have a hairline, but it's not perfect. Like you have a couple of hairs which are, and to make it a bit more natural, don't be afraid to experiment and like, oh, I'll move just this a bit 1 millimeters, off, or I have that a bit skewed on top of the other one, right? So now I Dynamesh this, soften up the edges, because you can see the edges look a bit harsh. As I said, I didn't spend any time making the surface smooth, because I don't have to worry about that. I'll worry about it and I'll clean it when I'm getting to this point, which is now. Now I'll spend the time cleaning my parts, making sure I don't have to do that when I'm blocking, because when I'm blocking, I'm just figuring out that blocking. I'm figuring out, how do I make this character? How do I make this character look cool, or look sad, or emotion I'm going for? What's his body type, what the proportions, how the silhouette is going to work. That's what's important when blocking. And once we have that, the rest is just just busy work. It's just making sure everything looks clean and looks nice. But if the blocking stage isn't done properly, and it's not, you didn't spend the time, making sure everything looks, has like a nice flow and a nice volume, no matter how many details you add, it's still not going to look good. So here, because when you merge stuff, the polygroups, you still have them, so you can select a polygroup, and with the inflate brush, I can go in and I can move some stuff. As I said, I need those parts to not have any overlapping parts, just to make it easier for if I decide to 3D print this guy, or and just makes it look cleaner if all the pieces of the model are clean, and you have like a nice flow to them. So again, here I'm just going in and just moving some strands, and just making sure the flow of each one is as it's supposed to be. So it just flows nicely with the base hair that we have underneath. And that's the part where I Dynamesh, and then I'll go in with the flattened brush or the damp standard. And once I'm happy with the shape, I'll just merge it to the bottom part. I went ahead and jumped a bit because, as you've noticed, I'm doing the same thing, and I don't want to bore you with that. So just moving strands around. You'll notice one thing I forgot to record is when I added those strands, but I used the same technique. So the same tubes, just tiny tubes, made a shape, and then you can add them. What I love about those is they give a feeling of strands. And again, you have to go with that mess. It's like messy hair. There's always 1 or 2 strands which are not, behaving or sitting where they should. Now that the haircut is done, I can jump in and work on our final piece, which is the eyebrows. And you'll notice here I'm doing the same thing with the move tool. I'm just moving the eyebrows a bit because we merged some stuff and we added some, moved some stuff around, and just needed a bit of tweaking. So same thing, Dynameshing the parts with polish on. I'm going in with the damp standard and just adding so those creases and those lines using Alt, and just using I'm using the same volume and from the blocking. So this way, it just gives me a nice flow, and I'll repeat that again. This shows you how helpful blocking is, even when we're detailing, because it helps us not, have to guess what we're doing. It's like we're using, oh, I really like how when we blocked that really fast, it came out, you know, give us like a nice shape to it and a nice, you know, volume to it. And just, you know, as you notice here, I'm not using symmetry. So just because eyebrows, you mostly see them from the front. So you don't want them to look identical. It just makes it look weird. So with the damp standard, just going in, you know, with the alt, one up, one down, just, you know, play around with it. Add like, you can add like subtle ones on top of them as well, if you want like to have like a nice, you know, small tiny hair look to it. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll just go ahead and Dynamesh with polish on, and I'll, you know, I might just go in and I notice like I haven't added any to the top. Just makes the flow nicer, because you don't want to have like a super clean line with the part that with the hair that connects to the, you know, to the flesh. Just makes it look a bit more natural when you have that line break. So this is exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just going in and breaking that line, so the connection with the forehead flesh, it's not, you know, it's not perfect. You have that, you know, the waviness, or you want to call it, to the shapes. And now just zooming out, making sure everything looks well. I'll select some other parts. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and use another material shader just to see if I notice something. And here I notice like the nose needs to be a bit, I don't know, I need like a nice curvature to the front, moving the nostrils a bit around. I thought they were hanging a bit too low. And again, even at this point, I think even before I finished the model, I went in and I did a couple of extra tweaks. Because if I get to this stage, once it's cleaned, I'll leave it at least one night and I'll come back the other day and see where did I mess up. Because you'll definitely, you know, forgot one place, or you didn't clean it up, or something came up. And again, Shift S. To view it from all angles, just to make sure, just like a nice ending presentation for you.
If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe. And if you'd like to help this channel and help me create more videos like this, check out my Patreon page where I share STL files, behind the scenes, video tutorials of my toy design. And I would like to thank my Patreons, Vern, Guillermo, Juana, and Corey. Cheers.
Спасибо, Кадми.